Hello, Internet world. We are your bearded brothers. I am Matt.
Chose a bad time for that.
I really did. That is Chris. And we are back with yet another sports podcast.
Hello.
Hello. The NFL season, regular season, has come to a close. Sad face. But we are here with playoffs. Playoffs?
Playoffs?
Playoffs? And unfortunately, I do think we are going to start with Black Monday. Some coaches didn't even make it that far. The first coach to get the axe literally made it 20 minutes after his press conference after he coached his final game.
Was that one Mayo?
That was Mayo. Gerard Mayo,
Yep.
as we just mentioned, has been canned. He made it one season. He after the 20 minutes or so after his final press conference, word came out he'd been released.
Dude, it's hilarious because I told you yesterday or last week that I was like, I brought him up as an option. Yeah, we brought him up as an option, but I immediately was like, I just don't think the Crafts typically are pretty.
Yeah, they're
pretty
usually not a
patient.
one and done
But I did say that if they do it, it's because they're probably going to go for Mike Vrabel, and I have heard that apparently they have interviewed him or are going to interview him. So
yes,
that makes a lot of sense to me.
That is 100% something that has happened. The Browns' offensive coordinator also got the can. Doug
I think
Peters.
their defensive. Did the defensive coordinator also get canned, or was it only offensive?
It was only offensive.
Okay.
The Doug Peterson also got the axe, but that one, we've been
kind of expected that one, yeah.
Yeah, we've been waiting on that one, kind of expecting that to happen, and that obviously did. And then I have some last names here, because I didn't bother to get their first names.
Yep.
Grubb, the Seahawks offensive coordinator, he gone. Anarumo, the Bengals defensive coordinator, for obvious reasons, he gone. Bradley, the Colts defensive coordinator, for obvious reasons, he gone. Then the Titans general manager and EVP, Ran Carthon, is gone. He got the axe earlier today. And not long before we started shooting, word came out of Las Vegas that Antonio Pierce has been relieved of his coaching duties.
Yep. So, along with their offensive coordinator.
Yes. Both of them got shown the door. Which is not unexpected. Unfortunately.
Yeah, not super expected. And yeah.
No.
I mean, it's, yeah.
I believe the biggest ones for me are the fact that Trent Baalke in the Jaguars land in Jacksonville did keep his job.
Yeah. They announced that they're keeping him. It's crazy.
And both Shane and Dable kept their jobs for the Giants.
Dable, I kind of expected.
We kind of expected
Shane
Dable. We thought Joe Shane was about to get the axe. Yeah. That did not happen. And the Falcons head coach kept his job, Raheem Morris, which not entirely unexpected, but
no, I mean, you're typically gonna get more than one season. Plus, you had a Kirk Cousins that clearly did not recover properly from his injury. I speculate, kind of like Aaron Rodgers. I think both of them will potentially have better seasons if they continue playing or not.
Well, that depends
but I don't know
who the
I was going to say, I don't know if Rodgers will, and as far as Kirk Cousins goes, we've been hearing rumors that he'll get cut early, so we don't even know where he'll go either.
Yeah,
so
we also have heard...
the Jets?
The Jets. Because Rex Ryan has said if he's hired, he's going to put an end to all of that.
Yeah, we'll see.
To Club Rogers.
Yeah, whatever you say.
Whatever
you say, Rex Ryan.
Dude, whatever.
It's one of those things, so, yeah, it's... anyways, as far as the Falcons are concerned, we'll go back to that, because that's where I kind of trailed off on. the reason why I think Raheem Morris kept keeping his job is because he had a bum Kirk Cousins for a year, and when Michael Penix did come in, he made that offense look much more alive than it had been.
And
Um,
he kept them
so
in contention till literally the last week of the season.
yeah, yeah,
Which got nothing but love for that. Good job. So
yeah,
I think earned his way into another year.
yeah.
Um,
Whether he keeps that next year, will that's a wait and see prospect here.
we do have injuries to report. Jair Alexander will not be in the playoffs as he is done for the season.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Christian Watson blew his ACL in the final game of the season, and he's finished. Um, it was reported that Love got injured, but he would have been able to come back, supposedly.
Yep. They just decided not
They
to
decided
play
not
for the
to
rest of the
risk
game.
that one after
Yeah.
the Watson stuff. Yeah,
Yep.
I can't say that I blame them for that.
No.
No.
Granted, it that was a hard pill to swallow for that game, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. And then the Lions lost Terry and Arnold.
Yep.
Somebody hates the Lions, and it
Currently,
doesn't.
that person's me.
And me too. But it doesn't seem to matter, does it?
No. Remember when you were championing the Lions last year and be like, "Yeah, I want to see the Lions." Do you still want to see the Lions go to the Super Bowl, motherfucker? You still want to see it?
If it's a
Or are
choice
you
between
finally?
the Lions and the Packers, I will take the Lions every day.
Yes, but let's not say that's the choice. Let's just assume,
Well, who do
neither
you
one
want to
of us
assume
get
with?
there.
The Lions and who?
Uh, let's say the most likely option would be either the Lions, Eagles, or Lions. Who else would be another option? Potentially Washington. I would argue.
Let me see if that's even a possibility.
I don't know how the reseeding would work on those, so I don't know 100%. I think Lions Eagles is definitely possible because they're 1 and 2.
Yep, Lions and Eagles would be, and Lions and Washington would be.
But if you had those options, would you take
I would take the
the Lions
Lions
over
over.
those?
I would take the Lions over the Eagles, but I would take Washington over the Lions
Okay.
because I like Jaden Daniels better. I'd take Tampa over the Lions as well because I like Baker and I think that would be a nice redemption story for him. I think I'd even take the Rams if they beat us this week over the Lions. I'm not trying to
Very
be
possible.
offensive, guys, but like the only two teams I'm taking the Lions over if they make it that far is Green Bay or Philadelphia. The other four teams I like better than the Lions. I'm sorry, Lions fans, but that's just the way it is. And I'll literally take the field over KC.
I was gonna say I'll take just about anybody over Casey.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Um, so, all right. I also want to bring up, because we mentioned it last week, the double slew foot for the LaRue against Spurgeon. Spurgeon is not out for the season. He did not tear anything. It is a sprain. He was out, I think they said 1 to 2 weeks is all he's going to be out. But LaRue did get 3 games. So if you consider the one that he had to sit out because he got the game misconduct, that's 4 games. So that's fair to me. I still think there's probably going to be a fight the next time they face each other, but I'll consider that more fair because of everything that, you know what I mean? Like that's a fair punishment now. I'm not mad anymore. It just took some time. Okay. Another little couple of blurbs here that I have in my handy dandy little rundown here.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
First off, Woody Johnson had to clarify that neither of his sons help him in the running of the Jets.
Supposedly, which I don't believe for a
Which I don't
second.
believe for a minute. No. Absolutely not. Not in any way, shape, or form. I don't believe you. Now, do we want to discuss this? Because I didn't get a chance to talk to you about it. Have you heard about the turmoil on Fox Sports?
I vaguely saw something about it, and I've been actually purposely staying away from it because it sounds like there's a lot of information that hasn't been really fully presented yet.
The newest information has gotten both Skip and another female, actually.
Yeah.
There's, well, I will say then, I want to wait for the rest of it to kind of come
there's
down
so
before we
much
talk
that
about
sounds
it.
like they're missing at this
It
point
sounds
now.
like there's going to be some gaps and some holes and some other things that are going to come out of there before.
Heck, we might not even get the full story from the sounds of it. It might be one of those things that gets,
dealt with.
Money gets dealt one way or the other kind of thing.
And that's what I'm half expecting to have happen. All we'll say is there are rumors of sexual impropriety.
Yeah.
Amongst specific people at Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports. And that very many people have gotten caught up in it, including people that were on relatively well-known shows. And that's where I'm going to end that because I don't want to name names and I don't want to say anything. I've already named one person, but we could have all expected that he was going to get caught up in this eventually, unfortunately.
He's a big enough name that even if he doesn't have anything directly into
people
it,
are going to talk about him. And unfortunately, people are going to talk about his former co-host, Shannon Sharp. So we'll put those names out there.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything on him, whether he's gotten swept up in this yet or not, but
I've heard that there was a brief rumor involving him. Whether or not it got dealt with or not, I don't know.
I don't know yet either. And frankly, I'm going to wait. Let's wait and see what else comes out of that before we start talking. Real quickly to college football rankings. Let's have some fun, or college football for that. We are now down to the final 4 teams. Ohio State spanked the pants off of Oregon.
I kind of expected that actually a little bit.
Texas barely squoze by Arizona State.
I expected that to not happen. I was expecting that game to be not that.
I was expecting Texas to absolutely blow them out, and Texas just about blew themselves.
Yeah.
It was bad.
They
were doing 100%. Really well against Cam Scadaboo, and then he decided, nope, I am Cam Scadaboo. Fuck you.
I just do what I want sometimes.
Yep. Notre Dame crushed Georgia.
Yeah.
And Penn State, I believe we did mention this last time, Penn State did beat, by that point in time, they beat Boise State.
Yeah, we talked about that.
So now we've got, I believe it is Penn State and Texas and Ohio State and Notre Dame? No, it's Notre Dame.
No.
It's Notre Dame and Penn State. And Ohio State and Texas.
That'll be a weird one.
Penn State and Notre Dame's one I'm looking forward to. That's going to be fun. They're close enough together in distance that they should have a rivalry.
Yeah.
So I'm going to enjoy that very much. I don't know who goes to the national championship, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, much as I like Texas, just Ohio State, man. It's
I'd love to see. I'd love to see Notre Dame.
That's hard.
I'd love to see Notre Dame go. Hell, I'd love to honestly see Penn State, Ohio State. That would be funny for me.
It would be kind of funny, but I would be a little surprised if that happens. But you never know.
I think it's going to be Notre Dame, Ohio State. And
that would be my initial guess.
But I'm pulling for Notre Dame. The last time they won and have a claimed national championship is 1988.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago.
Long enough. I was 8 years old.
I wasn't alive yet.
I believe it was for Penn State. I want to say it was 87 was their last claimed national title. Something like that.
No idea.
86. I believe they beat the Miami Hurricanes that year to win it.
Remember, I wasn't alive. I don't know.
I was 6 or 7 years old. So I wasn't watching football at that point.
I mean, you could have been.
I wasn't.
You should have
Like
been.
the only names I knew at that point in time were Joe Montana and John
Of course.
Elway.
Of course. Yeah, no, that
And
makes
Dan
sense.
Marino. I knew Dan Marino.
Oh, Dan Marino. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
That was about it. I didn't care about football beyond that.
Well, maybe you should have been.
I had a Fighting Irish sweatshirt, but that's because I liked the name, Fighting Irish.
Yeah, fair.
I didn't care about the school.
Fair enough.
So, at any rate, so yes, those are the big news things to take care of. So why?
Uh-huh.
What?
I said, uh-huh.
So why don't we go ahead and talk about the games that we're going to talk about this week. You get to start because you have the first game on the list. That would be the Bengals at the Steelers.
I was going to say, on my list, that wasn't the first game. That's why I was confused. I was like, I didn't take Baltimore-Cleveland. What are you talking about?
No. It's the first game that comes up on the list in terms of one of us taking a game, covering a game.
So, I know, I was just my brain just, I had a brain fart. It's fine.
So yes,
it's okay.
Bengals at Steelers. Bengals desperately needing a win to stay alive. Yep. Steelers trying to lock in the number 5 seed.
Yep. Bengals managed to win out though, 19-17 in a game that was pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was pretty boring.
We both picked the Bengals. Why don't you tell us whatever you can about that game outside of the fact that you probably fell asleep during it?
Dude, I legit did. I think I did fall asleep. I don't remember when, but I think I legitimately did fall asleep during part of this game anyways. I'm going to go over stats, and I'll try to talk about anything that I do remember happening. The thing is, I don't remember a lot of shit happening other than a lot of turnovers. If my brain's right, I feel like I remember there being a lot of turnovers. We'll see if I'm right. We'll get there. So first, we'll start with Joe Burrow. 37 of 46, 277 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Well, that's 1 turnover. Cincinnati rushing. Wow. Basically non-existent. Khalil Herbert, 20 for 69. Nice. Receiving, we have Jamar Chase, 10 for 96 and a touchdown. Mike Gesicki, 8 for 68. T. Higgins, 4 for 53. DJ Ivy did fumble and lose the ball, so that is 2. That is 2 turnovers, technically. Joe Burrow fumbled but didn't lose it, and Shaka Hayward fumbled but didn't lose it. Sorry, that was a forced fumble that Shaka Hayward got. I'll take that one back. Any interceptions for Cincinnati? No interceptions. Any sacks? Joseph Osai had half a sack. Trey Hendrickson, 3.5 sacks. For 4 sacks on the night. Trey Hendrickson actually being apparently the only good thing going on for Cincinnati at the moment. Kicking, Cade York, 4 for 4 for a long of 48 and 1 for 1 on extra points. That's pretty good. And kickoff returns, Isaiah Williams returned 4 of them for a long of 43. I actually remember one of those kickoffs they predominantly, I think he averaged almost 30, he averaged 33 yards on the punt returns. He had 4 of them. So he actually got out to quite a few big returns that you don't see as often in the league. So it's kind of fun to see him actually returning kickoffs and actually getting some yardage out of it. And as far as punt returns, he also had 2 punt returns for a long of 18. So not too shabby. Couple turnovers, kind of ugly there. Let's go ahead and look at the Steelers. Russell Wilson, 17 of 31. Oof. 148 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. That's rough. That's rough. Rushing, we have Jalen Warren, 6 for 21. Najee Harris, 12 for 36 and 1. And Russell Wilson, 4 for 16. Wow, that is also bad rushing. So neither team, that makes sense now in my brain. Neither team could get a rushing game going whatsoever. Both teams held under 100 rushing yards. Is insanity. Um, Receiving here, we have Mike Williams, 1 for 25. Najee Harris, 4 for 20. Pat Fryermuth, 8 for 85 and 1 touchdown. George Pickens had 1 reception for 0 yards, and he had 6 targets. That is horrific. And if I recall, wasn't there a play towards the end of the game where George Pickens had an opportunity at the ball and just kind of gave up on it?
They threw a deep ball at him, and I don't know if he lost it or if they overthrew it or if he gave up on it, but
like there was a moment there where it just looked like he just kind of pulled off for a second.
Yeah, and he looked like he pulled like
it was
bizarro.
Anyways, Calvin Austin III did fumble and lose the ball, so that's another turnover. Corliss Whiteman had 1 fumble but didn't lose it. Beanie Bishop Jr. had an interception. It's another turnover. So far, quite a few turnovers that we're talking about. Keanu Benton had a sack. Nick Herberg had a sack. Patrick Queen had a sack. Preston Smith had a sack for a total of 4 sacks on the night. Not terrible. About the same as Cincinnati, in fact. Chris Boswell, 1 for 1 on field goals for a long of 54 and 2 for 2 on extra points. Kickoff returns, we have Jalen Warren had 2 kickoff returns for a long of 31. And Calvin Austin III had 3 punt returns for a long of 7. This is one of those games, honestly, like, remembering it playing out in my head a little bit and, like, replaying a little bit, some of it. Honestly, these teams were so equally matched in bad that it was really sad to watch. Like, they felt like identical teams playing against each other, but in the worst ways possible. Like, it wasn't like, oh man, these teams are so closely matched, they're so good that they're matching blow for blow. No, this was just like a slap fest, and they just happened to both be about the same.
At least it wasn't that 6-3 thing we had to watch on the last Thursday night game.
That's true, but it wasn't. This wasn't a whole lot better, to be honest. There's more scores, but that's about it. Yeah, it was a boring game, but it was a game that the Bengals needed if they wanted a chance at playoffs. Unfortunately, as we will continue going through, you'll see that that did not matter.
Unfortunately, it did not.
I assume it passes on to you, sir.
Yep, at this point we will pass on as I will talk about the Saints at the Bucks. The Bucks really needed a win if they wanted to make playoffs on their own merits. And I will tell you, they started this game like they really didn't want to make the playoffs. It was bad. It was really bad for the Bucks. At one point, I even said the Bucks are playing lifeless, I don't care football. As I even have in here, so far the game is boring as the clock ticks down to the end of the first quarter, and it was that way. It was like 3-3 at the end of the first quarter or something, or 6-3. It wasn't any good at all, and I was just sitting here going, oh my God. I did write down that Tom Brady is a conceited dick.
He can be.
Hold on, because there's something he said right away early in the broadcast about I've never been in that position where week 18 I wasn't playing for anything anymore. I always made the playoffs. I always had something to play for. Like, Tom, you're coming off as a dick. Stop.
I think he just meant as in, like, there should be no reason to give up. There's always some reason to play a game.
He was trying to say something about
I was going to say, I think that he was trying to be more like a positive thing of like,
well,
hey, you always play. I always like to play.
Well, they could throw all the reverses and weird things at him because it doesn't matter anymore. You can do whatever you want now. There's nothing to play for. And that's kind of what he was getting at, was that the Tampa Bay had to be really careful not to fall for the trick plays, because you could pull all of those out of your playbook now, because there's no point to not using them. And I was like, dude, I know what you're trying to do, but the way you say it, because you're Tom Brady, you just come off as a dick. Sorry, dude. That was almost as funny as on one of the sports talking head shows early on. I believe it's on ESPN with Stephen A. and they have Mr. I run out of the back end of the end zone quarterback and
Daniel Orlovsky.
yeah, Orlovsky, and they have Shannon Sharp on there, and Shannon said, "When's the last time you had a team with a Triple Crown winner not make the playoffs?" And Dan said, "Your brother," because that did happen to Sterling. It took Shannon a minute, but I don't think he was expecting that. I will say that the second half, the Bucks went in at the end of the first half, trailing. I want to say it was like 16-6. It wasn't good, but they came back. They stormed back in the second half. They came out of the locker room a lot more animated. They played a lot harder. There was a great throw from Baker to McMillan that was just gorgeous. I will say Mike Evans came into this game needing 85 yards to tie Jerry Rice's record of 11 consecutive seasons of 1,000 yards or more. He got 89 yards.
Yay.
He got there by 4 yards, and they had to do it with like 36 seconds left on the clock after they had stopped the final drive of the Saints. Rather than just clocking the ball out, kneeling and going into victory, they ran one play to see if they could get the ball to Evans to get him the yards he needed. They threw it short to him, and he managed to make something out of it to get his yards.
Yay.
So, I think that was pretty cool. Let's talk a
Unlike what the Eagles did to Saquon Barkley. Fucking
Did
Eagles.
you hear what he said?
Yeah, he basically. I mean, he was nice about it, but you could tell he was kind of upset about it at the same time.
I didn't sign here to break rushing records.
You can tell that he was unhappy though by the way he was talking.
Yes. Let's talk a little bit of stats. Spencer Rattler finally had a decent game again. 26 of 42, 240 yards and a touchdown. He was only sacked twice and didn't commit a turnover. So, yay. Unfortunately, much like your game, at least on one side, couldn't get anything going. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 8 carries, 26 yards. Jamal Williams, 8 carries, 15 yards. Jordan Mims, 2 carries, 12 yards. And Rattler, 1 carry for 11 yards. They had nothing going on the ground. Through the air, Juwan Johnson, 6 for 80. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 3 for 33. Foster Moreau, 4 for 31. Cedric Wilson Jr., 3 for 22. Dante Pettis, 2 for 16 and a tutty. Edwards-Helaire caught 1 for 14. Kevin Austin Jr. caught 1 for 13. Mims caught 3 for 13. Dallin Holker caught 2 for 11. And Jamal Williams caught 1 for 7. Demario Davis led the way on defense with 9 total tackles. 6 of them were solo. Nephi Sewell had a sack, the only one, and Jordan Howden did have an interception. Blake Grupe hit all 4 of his field goals with a long beam from 49. On the other side of the ball, Baker Mayfield here, 21 of 32, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick, sacked once. It's amazing how he can go from 5 touchdowns and 400 yards to, 200 yards and 2 touchdowns and a pick. You never know exactly what you're going to get with Baker. Bucky Irving did run 19 times for 89 yards and a touchdown. Mayfield ran 9 times for 68 yards. That is not what you expect to see from Baker Mayfield.
I mean, yeah.
He can run. but you don't expect him to run that often. Sean Tucker, 2 for 16, and Jalen McMillan, 1 for 6. Mike Evans, 9 catches, 89 yards. McMillan, 5 for 74 and a touchdown. Devin Culp, 2 for 36. Payne Durham, 2 for 16 and a touchdown. Sterling Shepard, 1 for 11. And Bucky Irving, 2 for -5. Jack Browning fumbled, but recovered it. Defensively, Josh Hayes leading the way, 11 total tackles, 10 of them were solo. Yaya Diaby with a sack, and Vita Vea with a sack. They did not have any interceptions. Chase McLaughlin hit both of the field goals he attempted with a long of 52. Tampa looked halfway decent. I'm not totally sold. To me, in the playoffs, the Bucs are going to be a wild card because you don't know what team you're playing. If you get the dialed-in Baker, you're toast because he's going to go off on you for literally 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. You're done. But if you get a Baker that's not dialed in, you can take advantage of that, and you should have a day that is good. Yeah. All right. Your next game, sir. You want to talk about it?
Sure.
I'm not sure there's a point to talking about the Chiefs and the Broncos game.
Not really. There really isn't.
That
But we'll bring it up. It was a game that the Broncos needed to win. They desperately needed to win, and I would say they won, 38-0. In fact,
they did, and in fact, I picked the Broncos, and you picked the Chiefs.
I was expecting the Chiefs to have prepared, but it looks like they quite literally didn't. So
there's also rumors going around that they allowed the Broncos to win so they wouldn't have to play the Bengals.
Maybe, but even then, there's no guarantee that would have happened. Granted, turns out that may have could have happened actually, but still, I don't know. I quite literally after I think the first or second quarter stopped watching this game because I realized very quickly it did not matter. So I'll just go over stats and I'll talk about the small things that showed up and the obvious things. So the very first thing that should be obvious to you, as we talk about the Chiefs stats, Carson Wentz is playing 10 for 17 for 98 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. That was the entire game. 98 yards passing. All right, let's go to rushing. Maybe rushing.
You were like, maybe Carson Wentz is. What did I say?
Well, no. I figured they would again. I figured they would prepared. They clearly didn't. Maybe rushing will be better. Carson Steele, 8 for 25. Chris Oladokun, 1 for 5. Noah Gray, 1 for -4. Samaje Perine, 1 for 1. For a total of 11 rushing attempts and 27 yards. So no, it wasn't better. Wasn't better at all. Well, let's see what their 98 yards of receiving did. Nico Remigu, I don't even know if that's how you say your name, and I don't care. 2 receptions for 48 yards. Peyton Hendershot, 2 for 25 yards. And Samaje Perine, 1 for 13. There was a couple others. Juju had 1 for 4. But, that was pretty much it. 2 fumbles lost, or 2 fumbles on the game, but none of them lost. No sacks. Harrison Butker even missed a field goal. Nico had 1 kickoff return for 36 yards, and had 1 punt return for 4 yards. That was all of Kansas City's entire game, right there. So we'll talk about the Broncos real quick. Yeah, Yeah. Bo Nix, 26 of 29, 321 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Um, I think when they said they were sitting some of their starters, I think Kansas City quite literally sat all of their starters.
That would not
like,
surprise me. They just
like
played
even on
backups.
defense, because with the way Denver picked apart, there's no way that they were playing any
They
of their starters on
from what I
defense.
understand, Kansas City played don't care football.
Yeah,
I'm not.
quite
They
literally.
literally played to not get injured.
Yeah. Um, Rushing, we have Audric Estime, 12 for 34 and a touchdown. Bo Nix, 7 for 47. Jaleel McLaughlin, 16 for 39. Javonte Williams, 5 for 28. Receiving, Cortland Sutton, 5 for 98 and a touchdown. Devon Val, 4 for 50 and a touchdown. Javonte Williams, 3 for 50. Marvin Mims Jr., 5 for 51 and 2 touchdowns. Nate Atkins, 3 for 25. Troy Franklin, 2 for 12. Like, ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
No fumbles, no interceptions. John Franklin Myers had a sack. Jonathan Cooper had a sack. Jordan Jackson had a sack. Nick Burrito had
Nick
2 sacks
Burrito.
for a total of 5 sacks on the night. Will Lutz was 1 for 1 on field goals and 5 for 5 on extra points. No kickoff returns and no punt returns from Denver. It just it's one of those games that I was kind of hoping that like Kansas City would actually put in a little bit of effort because you know division, but apparently that they just did not care. Quite literally did not care.
Yeah, did not.
And like you said, it almost felt like they kind of purposely let Denver win, because as we know, no, I don't think your next game is not the Dolphins game, is it?
It is.
Oh, well, I'll let you talk about that then.
I will talk about that. So I did take the Dolphins at the Jets. And I picked the Jets, and you picked the Dolphins. Say there's no way the Dolphins are going to lose this. And then the Dolphins came
I
out.
didn't realize they weren't playing too. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I don't think it would have mattered, because
Maybe, but I think it might have. Who knows?
they played like total dirt, and defensively, I don't think it would have mattered considering the stats if you look at them. Um, Dolphins needed a win to stay alive, and the Bengals needed the Dolphins to lose. The Dolphins lost, but the Broncos won, so both the Bengals and the Dolphins were eliminated, and the Broncos have made the playoffs. Which means the NFC North and the AFC West each sent 3 teams to the playoffs. See what I have for my wonderful notes about this game. Early on, I literally watching the Jets first throw of the game. Rodgers throws it. It bounces off his receiver's hands and gets picked off. I literally wrote the Jets offense as a joke.
They kind of are still.
They kind of still are. I did notice a really bad trend, which was Miami cannot move the ball in the red zone. They could not get the red zone figured out. A-Chain, despite the cold weather, still fast as hell. He ripped off a ridiculously long run that, if I remember right, the Jets still couldn't, or the Miami Dolphins still couldn't punch into the end zone. I literally said the Jets would have a chance if their offense didn't suck. Rodgers does end up getting career pass number 5, TD pass number 500 to Tyler Conklin. And I believe he would also hit 501 in this game. I literally had to write down, this game is nothing more than a turnover fest. Neither team wants the ball. I will say, I don't remember which team it was, but somebody intercepted the football and then lateraled it to a different teammate who took off. I want to say it was the Jets. They picked him off. They picked off Huntley and they lateraled the ball and got more yards out of it. And I will say that from what I noticed, the Jets definitely found their offensive groove in the second half, started putting up points, making things look pretty nice. Um, I'm going to point out that at the half, um, the score was Jets 15, Miami 6. Miami scored all the points in the first quarter, and Conklin caught the pass. In fact, I think Rodgers didn't just hit 501. He's up to 503 now. Passing touchdowns. He got 4 of them. Which that's pretty doggone good. Unfortunately, in the middle periods, the Dolphins couldn't do a damn thing, and by the time they woke up and tried to make it a game again, it was too late. Which was all in the fourth quarter. Before I get into stats, I also want to say that there's been some kerfluffle with the cheetah, Tyreek Hill. Apparently, at the end of the game, he said, "I'm opening the door. I'm out. I got to do more than just be out there. I'm a competitor. I've got to do what's best for my football career." Now, he does have until 2026 on his contract. He has said that he is not extending and that after 2026 he's done. We'll see if he sticks to that. But then, apparently, in post-game interviews, or with the GM, which apparently the players go through, the GM said that there were productive conversations and he didn't request a trade. So I don't know what's going on there, but it does sound like he doesn't want to be there or like he wants something to change. And I don't know what it's going to be. So we'll keep you updated on that as we hear more. But as of right now, everything is the way that it is. Speaking of which, real quick, the Cowboys did release Zeke, and he did get signed to the practice squad by the Chargers. And then Minnesota has waived Brett Rippon, and they have signed officially to their roster for the playoff run Daniel Jones.
Because why not?
If we do actually go to the Super Bowl, might as well get him a ring, right?
I guess.
All right. Anyway, stats.
Decent backup, I guess. Better
than most of our other backups right now.
I was gonna say if Sam starts freaking
we'll talk
out,
about that. We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
we'll talk about it. All right.
I have feelings about that.
I have feelings about it too, and I'm not happy.
I don't. Yes, We'll get to it.
We'll get there.
In fact, we're almost there.
Yes. Tyler Huntley, 25 of 41, 227 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, sacked 4 times. Devon Achane, the guy who showed up to play, 11 carries, 121 yards, 1 touchdown. Huntley, 3 rushes, 16 yards. Waddle, 1 rush for 6 yards. Jalen Wright, 6 carries, minus 4 yards. Jeff Wilson Jr., 2 carries, minus 4 yards. Receiving, Jonnu Smith, 9 for 56 and a tutty. Malik Washington, 4 for 48. Jalen Waddle, 4 for 44. River Craft, 4 for 38. Alec Ingold, 2 for 21. Tyreek Hill, 2 for 20. Durham Smythe and Julian Hill did not haul in the passes targeted to them. Tyler Huntley, 1, 2, 3, 4 fumbles. Only lost 1 of them. And he recovered 2 of his own. Jonnu Smith also fumbled and lost it. And Terrion Armstead recovered a fumble. That is not how you win a game. You cannot fumble the ball 5 total times, losing 2 of them and recovering 3 and hope to win a football game. All right. Defensively, Jordan Poyer led the way with 8 total tackles, 4 of them solo. Zach Sealer with a sack and a half. Calais Campbell with a sack. Emmanuel Ogba with half a sack for a total of 3. Tyrell Dodson winds up with an interception. And Jason Sanders hit both his field goals, 2 of 2. 28 yards was the long for him. On the Jets side, Aaron Rodgers, 23 of 36, 274 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked 3 times for 17 yards. Alan Lazard also attempted a pass, but he was 0 of 1. Rushing, Brees Hall, 12 carries, 47 yards. Isaiah Davis, 4 for 41. Braylon Allen, 4 for 15. Gibson, 1 for 5. And Garrett Wilson, 1 for 0. Devontae Adams led the way in receiving, 6 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. Lazard, 3 for 71 and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 4 for 51. Kenny Yeboah, 2 for 20. Tyler Conklin, 2 for 16 and a touchdown. Brees Hall, 3 for 15 and a touchdown. Braylon Allen, 2 for 8, and Jeremy Ruckert, 1 for 5. Xavier Gibson fumbled, but Quincy Williams and Solomon Thomas each recovered fumbles. Ashton Davis leads the way defensively, 9 total tackles, 8 of them solo. Bruce Hector got a sack. Hassan Reddick with half a sack. Javon Kinlaw with a sack. Will McDonald IV with half a sack for a total of 4 sacks. And Ashton Davis got both their interceptions, which is nice. And Greg Joseph, 1 for 1 on field goals with a long of 20. New York does win 32-20, slamming the door on Miami's playoff hopes. And Aaron Rodgers actually played what looked like a good game. If this is how he could play next season, the Jets have a chance.
Big if there.
Oh, that's a big if. I think it's going to determine on their coach. If you really want to get into that. Now, Sunday Night Football.
You sure you want to do this?
No.
Because I'm going to say a lot of things you're not going to like. You're going to vehemently disagree with me on.
It's not as bad as I think it is.
The game was much closer than people want to say it was. Yes, I will agree. There was definitely a point where it came crashing down really fast. I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
But that didn't happen until literally the fourth quarter.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
up until
the game was
quarter,
actually
basically
really close. It was really close for a long time. Minnesota, the parts that upset me personally are the fact that we should have had a lead, a fairly substantial lead. I think there's a chance we still lose this game based upon the way the Lions had that huge fourth quarter. But we should have been, instead of at 9, this should have been like 24-31. Like, that legitimately should have been the score.
We had 7 plays back to back to back, literally, because we had 4 of them got
a turnover.
Got a turnover on downs that we couldn't punch it in. Then they turned it over to us, and we got another
through an interception.
Through an interception, we took another 3 shots at it and still couldn't punch the ball into the end zone from like 10 yards out, and had to kick a field goal. It was the worst crap. We could not move the ball in the red zone to save our butt, and Darnold kept overthrowing receivers and missing them, and there was at least one where I will swear it should have been called. One of the ones to Addison in the end zone. Absolutely, I feel like should have been called for pass interference.
The reffing wasn't good on either side, to be honest with you. But
it wasn't. But I
don't think it made a big enough difference either.
They were leaping through the end zone, and you could say he's going for the ball, but he's taking his right hand and he's pulling down Addison's lead arm over here to try to catch the ball. He's pulling it back, and I'm like, it's a textbook definition of interference, my dude. Yeah, he's going for the ball, but he's also definitively interfering with the offensive player's ability. And then there was the play that should have been a safety,
Yep, the safety.
Because
yeah.
it was obviously textbook intentional grounding.
Intentional grounding in the end zone. Yeah.
Just terrible. Terrible.
There was, like I said, the refs weren't great, but again, I don't necessarily blame them with how many options we had in the red zone. Like, at some point, you just have to go. That's on us though. Like,
Yeah, we should
yeah, a
definitely
couple of those plays should have gone our way 100%. But like with how abysmal we played in that red zone,
yeah.
like, and so I know a lot of people were looking at are putting their pointer on Sam Darnold because they're if you saw the way his face looked in the plays in comparison to the past couple of weeks, you can tell he was there was more anxiety in his face.
He
Like
was
he
super
felt,
rattled. He went 18 of 41.
yeah,
He did
you
not
can tell
throw an
he did not.
interception.
No, he didn't. He was still safe with the ball, but he was almost throwing too safe to the point where not even his own receivers could get the ball.
Exactly.
I think there was a certain amount of rattle, but I don't think it's as bad as people want to say it is. And here's why I want to say it is this game was easily, at least for the past several years, the most hyped up game for his career, on top of the most important game at this point for his career. Like,
Yep.
if you think about it realistically, like outside of like college, and college is a completely different level. Yeah, he's
100%.
won championships, but that's not the same thing.
No.
And then on top of that, going into opposing stadia with how loud that probably was.
Oh God.
Like, you combine all those factors, and yeah, I can understand why he probably was hyped up and had a lot of adrenaline, was having a hard time coming back down into space. And no matter what you do at that point, a QB is going to have a hard time getting out of it. So even though like people are like, "Oh, KUC should have stepped in," I'm sure he did. I'm sure he tried to calm him down. But there's only so much you can do.
Exactly.
My hope from this is that Sam can. There's two things that'll happen now. These are the two things that'll happen. Either A, he'll learn from this experience and be able to calm himself next time in the future, but potentially this upcoming game, potentially depending on how things go with the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
But the bare minimum, so he'll either learn to control that and go, okay, this is just the way it is when it gets towards the end of the season. Like, these games are just that much more difficult mentally to play, because he's never been in this position before, so it's much more mentally tough. So either he will learn to control that and he'll play better, or he'll crack under pressure again and will be one and done in the playoffs. And then that tells me you don't sign Sam Darnold again, because that tells me he's a great regular season quarterback who will just choke in the playoffs like a Kirk Cousins.
If we see it again, the exact same type of thing, playing the Rams, don't re-sign him, let him walk. We'll do better.
Exactly.
I do also want to say I want to give props to Aaron Glenn. He absolutely, and I think
offensively they played very well. Yes,
I think my dad and I were talking about this through text, because I was talking to you and I was talking to my dad because he was watching the game as well, and I said, Glenn, he's got a defense where they don't know if they're going to. The Vikings cannot tell if they are going to rush or if they're going to drop back into zone or if they're going to play man. They have no idea what they're doing. Glenn is perfectly countering our offense. I don't know how he's doing it, but it was brilliant.
It was a good defense. I think there was enough
very,
holes.
Very good game. There were enough holes
Yeah,
that we should have exploited.
There was enough holes where we should have scored, definitely.
But he did a good job.
We had plenty of opportunities, but
yeah, he did a really good job of covering up his glaring holes.
The big things that they did really well was basically make our rush game non-existent.
Yes.
They made our rush game very difficult up until a point. Like, we had moments where we had good rushes, but like, especially in the red zone, absolutely could not rush the ball. Whatsoever.
They made sure that we were not going to get any rushing touchdowns, and I think that's
because of that, they forced Sam to throw it so much in the red zone, and he just. And to be also fair to Sam, while it's shorter field, a lot of people are like, it's shorter field, it should be easier. That's actually why it's a lot harder, because the defenders don't have to go anywhere either.
I will also say that our defense played very well. We did
for the majority of the game.
We made Jared Goff look very mortal.
He
had more. Again, this was one of the few times he had more interceptions than he had touchdowns, but they still managed to find a way to win the game. And the reason they managed to find a way to win the game...
their rush game eventually unlocked, and that was that.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Man.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Just could not stop Jahmyr Gibbs. Once he got going in the second half, that was game over,
That was game over, man. I will say, thank you, Jahmyr, because you helped me win my fantasy championship.
That is not a good consolation prize unless it won you actual money.
No, it did not win me actual money. God, I wish it would have, though. But I am very happy that I won my fantasy championship, and it's thanks to Jahmyr Gibbs, really, honestly. He absolutely obliterated my opponent. That last week is always hard on fantasy championships to try to figure out who's playing and who isn't, and try to piece together a group of people.
Yeah,
that's
why our championship ended actually last
17 week 17.
Yeah, I think it might have actually ended week 16. Just because
I don't blame you guys.
Our dynasty league does it that way, just because we don't know. Once you get to 17, 18, you don't know who's playing.
You don't want people who are going to have to sit, And because you've got so many teams, it's not like you can go to the waiver wire and grab a guy who's going to play.
Exactly.
That doesn't work. Yeah, no.
Our benches are so large because it's a dynasty league, Yeah.
I totally get it. So, what I will say is, I won my fantasy championship, but I really would have rather won the game.
I won our lower bracket.
I won the overall thing. I squeaked into the lowest seed in the upper bracket, and then I
was close.
I beat the number 1 overall seed in the first week, and then the last 2 weeks, I had one of the other guys, whoever I was playing in the championship, had obviously stopped giving a crap about his team a while ago.
It's funny because so when we got to the part where we were being seeded for playoffs, I had a chance at making the lowest seed in the upper bracket. The problem is that week my team was marred with injuries, and I had a couple teams that were also on bye at the same time. So I just had to fill in what I could, and I just didn't win out, and because of that I ended up going in the lower bracket. And then all of the rest of the weeks, all of the other games, I smashed everyone in the lower bracket, to the point where I compared my scores to the guys in the upper bracket that I would have faced, and I would have beaten all of them too. I was so pissed. I would have lost in the finals, but I would have actually made it to the finals. I'm like, are you serious? The one really bad week. Oh my god.
If you guys ever do an expansion draft, let me know.
I have no idea right now. I think we're at 8 people right now, so.
Yeah, that's probably good.
I don't know. And also, it's a paid league. You'd have to pump in money.
That's fine.
So we're at $100 this year, and then it looks like we might be upping it to $150 next year because our commissioner wants to do weekly payouts for the person that scores the best.
No,
every week you'll do
be in 25. On that. So if somebody has to drop out due to financial constraints or something, let me know.
Yeah, if there's ever any openings, I'll bring it up. But that's up to the commissioner whenever he.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. It's just I've never done. I always wanted to do a Dynasty Keeper League, and I've never had enough people to.
Yeah.
Give a shit.
Yeah, if it comes up as an option, or if they bring up possibly wanting to bring up, because if we go from 8, it would have to go to 10. Then yeah probably. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, the Vikings did lose 31-9. It was a game until the fourth quarter. Going into the end of the third quarter, 2.5 minutes left is when they scored, when Jahmyr Gibbs broke that off. I stopped watching at that point because I saw the writing on the wall, knew exactly what was going to happen. And it did. Jahmyr Gibbs just ran over us at that point. He had a hell of a game, and I knew we were pretty boned at that point. And it wasn't because I thought our defense was bad. It's because we couldn't score. We couldn't pass, we couldn't run, we couldn't get the ball in the end zone, and I knew that...
It's funny, we could move the ball whenever we weren't in the red zone, but once we got in the red zone, we couldn't do anything.
Exactly, they clamped down, and because of that, I knew what the outcome was going to end up being. If we had been still scoring, if we had been scoring at any one of those points, maybe the Lions win, but it's going to be a 1 or 2 point game at that point. It's not going to be something where you blew us out. So... I agree with you. The score says we got blown out. The game itself is not indicative of that. if you watched the overall game. They had some big plays at the end from Gibbs, and that's what won them the game, quite literally. Without those, the Vikings would have been in it till the very end.
Yep.
So, that's. I don't want to go over the stats because I don't feel like hurting myself that badly.
They weren't impressive outside of Jahmyr Gibbs, anyways.
They really weren't. So, what I'm going to say now is. Pow! We have the black screen and all the games rolling in. So you guys can take a look at the last week of the season, and we are going to talk about some smelly people who need to wash up in the shower. You want to start this week?
Sure. I actually had a hard time filling this one because we had so many. Because I didn't want to like beat up on second stringers that were just playing or for games that didn't really matter. So I was trying to figure out the best way to pick people. So I picked basically teams that let me down more than I actually picked players in this one. So, for example, Steelers, all of you hit the showers. Like you guys really needed to beat the Bengals there, and you just didn't.
That's why for me, because there was a starter on that team whom I think shit the bed, George Pickens hit the showers. Specifically
That's
you.
fair. That's fair. I get it. A team that I expected to play better just didn't. The Tennessee Titans. Just all of you hit the showers. How did you lose that game? I mean, I guess you didn't really care, but like you played Will Levis even, and he still didn't.
Sam Darnold, I'm sorry, but you crumbled in that one. I need you to hit the showers and shake it off, dude.
And then my final one, Kansas City second string. All of you hit the showers. I don't know what the fuck that was, but all of you, every single person in that second string hit the goddamn showers because it looked like you didn't even play football.
Tyler Huntley. I know you're a backup. I get it. But you were a Pro Bowler one year. What the fuck? Hit the showers. Alrighty. Inferno time.
Right.
I'll start. And now I want to make it clear when I put my first name out here. It is not because I think they're bad. But due to what has been said by the ownership, I do believe they are starting on thin ice next season. So, Brian Dable, you're in the sixth circle. I think your chair's getting super hot now. You're not quite on fire, but you're getting there. I don't think Mara is going to put up with another season like what you just had. So you and Joe Shane have got to make the right draft picks and get this sorted.
That's fair. In my second circle, I have Aaron Rodgers. Granted, you had one good game, but maybe it's time to go away. Maybe it's time to stop playing football. You could argue for another season, but I'm putting you in the second circle because like you had such a terrible season. Granted, maybe that was because you weren't fully healed from your injury, and maybe this last game is indicative that you still have it, but like you had another one of these games earlier in the season too, so I don't want to pretend like, you didn't have these one-off games on occasion. I don't know. I'm kind of over the hype. There are people who are like, "Oh, this last game shows that maybe he's healing and he's finally." Remember earlier in the season, we had two of these early in the season that were pretty good. That people were hyping up as well. That he was back in the saddle and then just fell off the roof. I don't know. I'm just saying that maybe it's time to move on.
Shad Khan, the owner of the Jaguars. You're in the seventh circle for keeping Trent Baalke. You got rid of Doug Peterson and you kept Trent Baalke? What is wrong with you? Get rid of both of them. Start over.
In my fifth circle, I have Trent Baalke. Because why? Why are you still here? I know I should be also blaming the owner, but at the same time, like, I'm blaming you because I remember hearing rumors about you wanting to retire. Why didn't you just retire? Go away!
And in my 10th circle, due to some of the things that have come out about what you're looking for as coach, is Ryan Poles. Because it has been specifically, the Chicago GM, because it has been specifically stated, apparently leaked out of your organization, that you don't want Ben Johnson because you're afraid he will replace you.
That doesn't even make sense.
Head coach for a little while, and then you kick him upstairs to become the GM. Or because Ben Johnson is so good, if the team looks bad, it's the GM's fault.
That he'll be more the scapegoat.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he should be.
Maybe you should be. He has also put out that they would be interested in maybe trading for a coach.
No.
The KOC's name has come up, but I don't think that's the one I'd go for.
No, it's funny because the amount of times I've heard that, apparently KOC's even commented on it and just went, I have no desire to go anywhere else.
That is something he has said. I want to point out that the name recently that I heard is one I agree with more.
I mean Shanahan, but he's not going anywhere either. Reed's not going anywhere.
Tomlin.
I don't like that.
If the Steelers are one and done,
I still don't like that as an option, though.
No, I would not be happy as a Vikings fan. But as a Chicago fan, I don't.
No, I just mean as in I don't like the matchup. I just don't like the matchup of coach to team. I get what you're saying, but I personally just... The way Mike Tomlin is as a coach, I just don't think will match well with what that team is currently built to do. I kind of half
agree with that. So, like, I think he's a defensive coach. I think you do need an offensive guy.
Yeah. Just the way that team is currently built, it's built around... It's built as a high offensive engine, not a defensive one.
You know,
so you need somebody who can run that engine
to see if they had any interest in it. You're gonna laugh at me, but I think I'd do it.
The
Arizona State head coach.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like you need somebody that's got a little bit more oomph in the field, though. But at the same time, you never know. I mean, KOC wasn't exactly a high option when he first came out, just because people were like, offensive coordinator for the Rams. We all know that's just Sean McVay. Like, turns out that learning under Sean McVay was the part that was important.
Exactly. All right, but anyway, that's my Inferno. You got one last one for me?
I do. In the 8th circle, I have Jim Irsay, owner of the Colts. Man, if even half the shit that has come out about your organization is true, dumb. Just dumb.
We know he's dumb.
Yeah, but like, Pat used to talk about him as like a fun, dumb rich guy. Like, like, okay, he's a little dumb, but he's really fun and he's nice and he knows things. But I'm worried as he's getting older, he's becoming more senile and less fun. And so it just worries me that the way that he's like letting things kind of just slowly ramp out of control, it feels like almost.
See, I've been having problems with him in my head ever since they got him for drunk driving.
I get that. I understand that, but I'm just saying it's getting exponentially worse every year, in my opinion. It just seems like it's slowly getting worse and worse.
All right. Ready for some potatoes?
We can certainly do that. We also have game balls to do at some point as well.
Yep, we'll do potatoes, game balls, and then the black screen will go away, and we will come back and do power rankings next week. And then I want to do depowered rankings for the NHL.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Do you have any ready?
I do. I got all of them ready, in fact.
All right, go ahead and hit me with one first.
All right, I'll hit you with what I'll call the very tame, in my opinion. Loki! Hey! Hardest potato ever. Maybe someday he'll stop chewing on that. No, maybe, just maybe, the Buffalo Bills will make the Super Bowl.
I mean, that's pretty tame, and I think that's pretty easy to say that
Yeah,
they've got a really good shot at it, I think.
like I said, it's the tamest one on my list. I know a lot of people are still saying KC, but I think the Bills have the best option
I
right now, in
agree
my
with
opinion.
you. I agree 100%. Um, I think there's going to be changes if they don't.
Right,
So,
probably.
I'm going to start with what I consider to be an easy one as well. Maybe, just maybe, a wild card team is going to make the Super Bowl.
I mean, it definitely seems possible. It's not 100% guaranteed, but it's definitely looking that way.
Because I
I'd
mean,
argue.
if you look at the wild card teams currently, you've got the Vikings, the
Hmm.
Commanders, and the
Hmm.
Packers.
Hmm.
And if you look on the AFC side, you've got the Chargers, the Steelers, and the Broncos.
Yeah,
So,
it's tough because I mean the Lions could easily make it, the Bills easily could make it, the Chiefs easily could make it. Like a lot of the teams the top horses that you're looking at in the race are not wild card teams, but there is good enough wild card teams this year that I could definitely see one of them making a couple upsets and making their way into that Super Bowl for sure.
mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll happen on the AFC side. I think it's more likely to happen on the NFC side. But yes,
I
I think it's
agree.
very possible. I think it's very possible.
All right.
Um, in fact, kind of off of the back of that one, maybe, just maybe, Green Bay will beat the Eagles.
I'm not going to take that one. Um,
Ooh.
and it's not because I think no more Jair Alexander, no more Christian Watson, and we
True.
don't know the status of Love. Not
That's
officially.
fair. I mean,
So
we know he's gonna play regardless, unless he's
I
like
would say
so
he's
badly hurt up.
yeah,
He's
I would
definitely
say
gonna
he's
play.
definitely going to play, but I think Green Bay is more banged up. I think they have more issues, and as good as Josh Jacobs has been, he is not Saquon Barkley.
Not this year, anyways.
No, and so I think Saquon is going to carry them past the Packers. Um,
Can
look,
see.
I'm not saying okay. I will say there's bias here because I hate the Packers. But legitimately,
I know. I know.
even if I didn't, I don't think the Packers have with Watson being out, especially and Jair Alexander being out, especially. I just don't think there's enough defensive and offensive firepower for the Packers to beat the Eagles,
That's
especially
fair.
not traveling to what is it? Is it Lincoln Financial Field? Is that where the Eagles
Yeah.
play? The Link? Yeah.
Yep.
Traveling down to the Link to play? Nah. If the Eagles had to travel to Lambeau, maybe.
That's fair.
All right. My next one. Maybe the Patriots head coaching job is more attractive than any of the others?
Let me see here. So we have the Raiders, which could be interesting just because of their high draft pick. We have the Jaguars, which could be interesting because they already have Trevor Lawrence and another high draft pick and a good wide receiver potentially. So they have some decent setups. We have the Bears, which look like they're pretty much ready to go outside of maybe a couple pieces here and there. And then is it the Patriots?
The
Is
Patriots and
that
the
it?
Jets.
Jets, yeah. Which the Jets is not very attractive just because of ownership, I think, in my opinion,
And
on
the
that.
Bears are a mess in
And the
terms
Bears
of
are a mess
ownership.
as far as anything general manager up, yeah.
Yep.
Anything front office wise. As far as the team is concerned, looks fine, but um
Because you've got a great young quarterback. You've just
you
shown that
do.
you have a really good young backup.
You have to really here's what I will say. The big problem this team has is they need a couple drafts. So whatever person goes here needs to know that and needs to make it very clear to the management as well that the first year is still going to be a rough year because they need to not only give Drake May some more weapons on offense and a little bit more protection, but they really need to redo that entire defense. That
There's a few
defense,
pieces I'd keep around.
yes, but I just mean in general, that defense really needs work done on it.
Yes.
And so because of that, I just feel like you need more than one draft year to really put together a solid team on paper.
The other thing is they have a lot of cap space finally too.
Yes, they could also do free agency, which is something that they've done in the past. I don't know what exactly who's gonna become available in free agency for them to pick up. There will definitely be options for sure. I would say personally, as weird as it sounds, I think the Patriots' job is not is definitely a good option. I think the Jaguars is a pretty good option outside of Trent Baalke, but he's probably not sticking around very long anyways. And the owner more or less has given most of his coaches some time unless they're just really, really bad. The Bears isn't on paper looks like it could be a good option, but the front office issues is concerning. Yeah, I don't know. Well, the Jets obviously you have myriads of issues over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the best, but it's definitely like in the top, easily in the top 3, probably top 2. Like I think it's definitely between the Jaguars and the Patriots probably.
All
And I
right.
think the Patriots basically just get the edge because they don't have a terrible GM or owner.
Exactly. And that's what I was really looking at is, for the most part, they're usually pretty patient. They have pretty
outside of
good,
this year.
they do have pretty good management. They do have a pretty good owner. So I feel like they're in a good position.
Yeah.
So that was just my take.
That's fair. And for my final nice and spicy one, which you might agree with or you might not agree with. We'll see. We'll see where your. It'll be funny to see where your meter is at because this will tell me exactly where you are on the wagon. Maybe, just maybe, the Vikings will still make the Super Bowl.
See, I've already told you the Vikings were making the Super Bowl this year. I'm all in. Yes. Yes. They're going to go to LA. They're going to beat the Rams. They're going to go to Detroit, walk into Detroit, and this time they're not going to give up in the fourth quarter, and they're going to stomp Detroit into the dirt.
And then who are we going to play after that?
We're going to go to the Link, and we're going to stomp the Eagles. As penance,
that one's going to be a hard one, actually.
As penance for all the times they've beaten us.
Oh, man. If they're even still there. We'll see.
So my last one is pretty spicy, too. I don't know. It came up with just after all this stuff happened, and I want to see where your head's at on it. Maybe, just maybe, Tyreek Hill will start next season as a Dallas Cowboy?
I doubt it. I think Tyreek Hill will probably not be a Dolphin next year from everything it sounds like, no matter what they keep saying about, like, oh, we've worked out.
That's why I started thinking about it. I was like, so who would trade for him? He's mercurial.
There's a lot of teams that would.
Yes, but where would he want to go? That's kind of the other question.
Yeah. He would want to go to a team that's got a potential for another Super Bowl. That's obviously where he wants to go. Which in my brain, like, I immediately go, who's got some money that might be to make it work? Not the Eagles, they don't have money. Pittsburgh, maybe. Cleveland, depends on what they do. Depending on what they do in the draft, you might be able to entice a Tyreek Hill over there, like they've done in the past with OBJ. Just saying it's possible. Let me see here. The Vikings don't have money. The Rams, maybe. Questionable. It's a questionable one. Depends on what they do for their future as well. San Francisco, despite everything they're going on, they might have money. We'll see. It depends on what they do with QB. Yep, but that might be an enticing option. Cowboys, my concern is Dak and how he is grossly overpaid for what his performance is. But pairing Tyreek with CD would be hilarious.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But there's a lot of other issues with that. I don't love it, but I can understand. I can understand why Jerry would go for it. But he's so senile that maybe he wouldn't. Who knows? I could definitely see Woody trying, just because Tyreek Hill's rating in Madden is so good, so we know that he would try. Can you imagine him in a Jets uniform next year? Jesus Christ!
Actually, how about Buffalo?
I was about to bring up Buffalo. Actually, would be a great option, and as weird as it is, it's definitely possible a return to KC legitimately is on the cards.
See, now I actually didn't think Buffalo at first because they just got out of the Diggs thing, and I don't know they want another receiver that's that mercurial. That's why
True.
I thought the Cowboys. Jerry puts up with weird
Jerry
prima
puts up with
donna
a lot of weird
receivers
shit.
all the time.
Ooh, Seattle. That would be an interesting choice. Depending on what they do with QB with Gino, that could be an interesting choice.
Yeah, but do they really need
Because they have does anyone really need Tyreek Hill? Let's be real.
I mean, but there are other places you could spend your money, is what I'm saying.
Yes,
Because
I agree.
They do
but
have JSN and they have DK.
I'm just making an argument. Or Cardinals. I mean, you could.
The Cardinals, I could see. That would make some
possible.
sense.
They still have more to work though, and I just don't know if Tyreek would want to go to those places. That's the biggest issue, right?
Yeah, that's why I was suggesting Dallas. Get him and Dak and CD to play together with the emerging.
Yeah, I just don't know if you'd want to go
game.
there. I just don't know if you'd want to go there.
I mean,
Green Bay, God, please no.
That's why I didn't bring it up.
The fact my brain finally went there, that would make sense. No!
Yeah, I immediately can't.
Now, thankfully, Green Bay doesn't tend to buy stuff in free agency, so
no,
I don't think we have to worry probably about that. Though the Bears could. I don't think they need to though.
The Giants could pair him up.
The
with,
Giants could, but I don't think Tyreek would want to go there unless they get they get. Well, maybe because they might get Cam Ward.
Yeah, some big, strong-armed quarterback. Pair him up with Malik Neighbors.
That's why I was arguing the Browns could go with because I think the Browns might go to Shedeur if they can, and that's why I was arguing that maybe they could entice Tyreek over with Shedeur Sanders.
We'll see.
I can see it. The Patriots would be a fun option still. I'm not gonna lie to you. That would be a hell of an option. Drake May. He's got the arm to go to Tyreek way down the field. He's got a bigger arm than Tua does. It would work. It would work. Just saying. It would work.
Denver would also be a fun option. Just so you could play the Chiefs twice a year and can.
Maybe Chargers.
But they're more of a running team now.
That's true.
That's why I said, could you imagine Sean Payton drawing up plays for Tyreek Hill?
Though maybe, to be fair, maybe one of the receivers for the Chargers has finally figured out how to fucking catch the football.
Atlanta.
With Michael Penis,
he looked good at the end of the year.
Maybe.
And you're gonna have
some
room after you cut Kirko.
Be funny with Saints, just because Rattler I think actually still has options, but I just think he's way too green still. Because Rattler showed off he had a couple really good impressive throws when I was watching him play. I was like, God damn! But there were a lot of throws that he did where I went, oh god damn! so he's a little too green still.
All right, so that's the end of the potatoes.
God, I hope he doesn't go to the Cowboys. That'd be awful.
Let's do some game balls, shall we?
Okay.
You can start.
All right, I'm gonna pick a weird one. I actually have quite a few weird ones on here. Bryce Young, game ball.
He's actually on mine.
Okay.
Although it hurts my soul, Jahmyr Gibbs, game ball.
Yep, he was on my list. Quentin Johnston, game ball.
Joe Milton the Third, game ball.
Fair enough.
He played very well against the Bills' second stringers.
Bunch of second stringers, man. Derrick Henry, game ball.
Kyler Murray, game ball.
He was on my list too.
I also had Bo Nix. Because
I also had Bo Nix as
yeah.
well. But again, I was like, I don't know, man. That was against a bunch of guys who didn't even show up to play football.
That's why I didn't wind up doing that one, but I did do
Yeah.
Kyler because Kyler played really well. So did Joe Milton.
Yeah.
And we're back. Hi. Let's go ahead and do our power. Let's do power rankings, and then we'll talk next week. And then I'll do a depowered rankings, and we can move it on home. I'll start.
You start.
Number 10.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You guys needed to win to get in. You won. You snatched it. You got in. Good job.
That's fair. At 10, I have the Denver Broncos. You made it in. Congratulations. Granted, against a second string that didn't seem like they were really playing football, but you beat them. You finally beat Kansas City. Congratulations.
At number 9, I have the Denver Broncos for basically all the same reasons.
At number 9, I have the Rams. I just think they're a good football team. They made it into the playoffs. I am concerned, obviously, about playing them, but I think that we are still probably a better football team. I am concerned because we did lose to them already in the season, so that does concern me a little bit. But yeah, they're a good football team.
At number 8, I have the Rams.
Yeah.
All the same things you just said. I am really concerned about playing them. They're a really good dark horse football team, and if we do end up going one and done and losing to them, I think they could go on a run. And if I were any of the teams above them, I don't think I want to see the Rams.
That's fair. At number 8, I have the Commanders. You want to talk about a team that I'd be scared to play? Not because of their defense. Their offense is a motor boat. It's quite literally the epitome of getting a beat up looking car and putting the biggest V8 engine you can into that bitch and making everyone very confused.
At number 7, I have the Commanders. For basically all the same reasons. That's not a team I want to run across. They are going to be... Their defense may not beat you, but their offense is going to make every game fucking difficult.
Oh, yeah. At number 7, I have the Chargers. Honestly, the Chargers are a really good football team. I'll put it this way: the Chargers are, in my opinion, the dark horse in the AFC. Like, if I had to pick a team that I think could actually make the Super Bowl, that isn't favored right now, it will be the Chargers. I think they are an excellent football team. They are a hard-nosed football team.
Unfortunately, they did not make my list.
Yeah.
That's the one that I removed.
Yeah, fair enough.
At number 6, I have the Chiefs. Again, I know it was your second string, but they looked like they didn't want to play football. So I'm worried that if any of your first string goes out, what are you really getting in return?
That's fair. At number 6, I had the Baltimore Ravens. Honestly, the only reason you're down here is simply because I think everything else above you is potentially either better or equal to you. So, yeah, it's just where you landed.
At number 5, I have the Bills. I'm not saying I think you're the worst team in the AFC. I am minorly concerned that you got beaten the last week by the Patriots. Yes, it's your backups, but it's the same thing with the Chiefs. Your backups still have to play football. Sometimes. You don't know what's going to happen. And with the way they played, I have concerns.
Yeah, I didn't weigh any of those second string games basically at all because I did not hold those against the first stringers whatsoever. So you weighed those way more than I think maybe should have, but I understand why you did it, what you did. At number 5, I have the Vikings. That loss is hard. It's a tough loss to take. Um, it does show that you have potentially a weakness, but we'll see how the next week goes. I am concerned. Um, I dropped you down just because I think the rest of the teams above you are teams that could make the Super Bowl over you. But granted, there's only 2 teams on the NFC on that list.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. At number 4, I have the Vikings. For pretty much the same reasons. That loss was harsh, but you hung with it until basically the fourth quarter. It was a really close game. You should have been able to punch it in. I don't know what happened. I don't know why you suddenly had red zone woes, but I'm going to trust that KOC can work that out and that you guys are going to come out swinging this upcoming week against the Rams. We'll see how it all goes. But for right now, you did have to drop. So you are now number 4.
yep. At number 4, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. Good football team. Your second stringers didn't do a whole lot, but I shouldn't have expected much from you, the second stringers, in the first place. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really move you around too much because I didn't get to really see you guys play. So it's going to be pretty much the same thing next week. You're probably not going to move much because I'm not going to see you play.
At number 3, I have the Baltimore Ravens. You guys looked good. You trounced the Browns. I expect that you're going to not have too much problems against the Steelers, considering that the last game y'all played them, y'all whooped them. Lamar becomes the first QB in history to have 4,000 yards passing and 900 yards rushing in the same season, setting new standards, as Lamar is wont to do. Derrick Henry has looked really good. Look, you guys are a very good football team, and I think I don't know how it's going to go, but I would love to see a championship game that is you and the Bills. I think that would be fun.
At number 3, I have the Eagles. I mean, it's Saquon Barkley, the show. I'm not going to elaborate much further than that, dude. No matter what team they go up against, it's going to be a tough game just because that run game from the Eagles is absolutely devastating. And even when the run game doesn't work, they still show off that passing game with A.J. Brown, and Jalen Hurts can still pop once in a while, and that's still scary as fuck. So
that's why at number 2 I have the Eagles. They're just a frightening team. Absolutely scary. Saquon Barkley is a beast. If Hurts comes back too, and you get his legs involved, and then he just has to throw like 170 yards, 200 yards, get 110 of them over to AJ Brown. This team it's really nasty.
Yep. At number 2, I have the Buffalo Bills. I'm not holding that second string game against them whatsoever. You talk about Lamar Jackson being such a great quarterback, setting new standards. Well, Josh Allen likes to do that himself with rushing touchdowns and passing touchdowns. So he's no slouch in that front either, my friend.
No. He doesn't get as many yards overall as Lamar does, but he still gets a lot of touchdowns.
He still gets a lot of touchdowns.
I ain't mad at that.
So he's also setting standards as far as, like, you might not be as he's basically a little. It's funny because Lamar is the speedster, the shorter guy who's going to get a lot more yards but might not get those touchdowns, where Josh Allen's the beast of a human who will just run through people.
They've got. It's funny because they've got
speed versus power, quite literally.
But you've also got it flipped because then Josh's running back is Cook, who's a speedy little zig and zag guy, and the Ravens
have
Derrick Henry who will run you over. So I think that's a very
they complement each other very well. Yes, so I agree that the Bills-Ravens championship game would be a fire game personally.
Yes.
We'll see how the Chiefs try to interrupt that or not, but I personally think that would be a really fun game because
then of course we both
have very similar teams.
We both have the Lions at number one. After beating the Vikings. And still having Goff look very bad, Gibbs came out and looked fire. The reason why I'm really worried about that, I think they're going to get some guys back coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Montgomery looks like he may be coming back. They got some other guys coming back, and I think if they get enough pieces back, they're really going to be hard to beat.
Yeah.
Really, really hard to beat.
I agree.
Alrighty, let's look at Wild Card Weekend. You ready?
Sure.
Chargers at Texans.
Chargers.
I
Texans
agree.
still have not impressed me much.
I agree. Steelers at Ravens.
I think the Ravens. I think the Steelers. I think that'll be a closer game than you think. I think the Steelers will make that a really tough game. But I think the Ravens will ultimately pull through on that one.
I agree with you again. Broncos at Bills.
Listen, as much as people want to be holding up the Broncos as like they could legitimately take a run and beat the Bills, I'm not seeing it. It's the Bills.
Again, I agree. Packers at Eagles.
I've already made myself known on this one. I think Green Bay has a real shot at this, and I am picking Green Bay over the Eagles.
Commanders at Buccaneers. By the way, I'm taking the Eagles, and I think you're nuts.
What did you say?
Commanders at Buccaneers.
I'm taking the Commanders here. I think the Bucks have a real shot, but I think that motorboat from the Commanders just always. I'll put it this way: they find ways to win close games with that motorboat, and I'm very curious to see if they'll do it in the playoffs.
I'm going to take the Buccaneers just because the motorboat could literally be Baker Mayfield. If Baker
It could be. That's true too.
If Baker shows up and does that Baker 400 yards and 5 touchdowns thing.
Yeah, that's possible. That's true.
And then Vikings at Rams.
I mean, I think this will be an unfortunately close game just because of the Rams are going to be pretty much fully healthy. Vikings should be mostly good to go as well. I do have concerns. We'll see if Sam can calm down. I worry that going into playoffs, but maybe the Week 18 game was harder than the playoff game. I don't know. Depends on where he felt that pressure was coming from. Right? I don't know. So I do have some concerns, but I think the Vikings will ultimately find a way to beat the Rams. That's my opinion.
I agree with you. 100% I agree with you. All right. I'm going to do the depowered ranking. Oh, wait. Before we do that, what games do you want?
1, 2, 3. Well, there's only 6 games, right? So they're staggered well enough that I'm planning on trying to watch all of them. Unless they start to bore me, but they shouldn't. Like my only one I'm concerned about really is going to come down to the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. Like that one could be a blowout pretty badly.
Texans could be really boring too.
That could be boring, but it might be close. Denver-Buffalo could be a blowout if Bills just decide to shellac Denver. But I think because it's only 6 games,
just do all of them.
It's not. I think it'll be pretty easy to try to watch most of them.
Okay, fair enough.
As best as possible. Yeah.
Fair enough. So with that, then, the D-powered rankings. These are the worst teams in the NHL right now, by my estimation. I'm going to go from 23 up to 32. Starting at the bottom, the Anaheim Ducks at number 23. They are 17, 18, and 4 this season with a total of 38 points. However, they are starting to gel in their last 10. They are 6-4-0. So they're starting to gel. They're starting to come together. They could make a wild card run if they keep playing like this. And they've been getting some good goaltending from some key people. They've been getting some goals from some key people. So they are starting to figure it out. They're a young team, but they've got a chance. Number 24, the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are 17, 17, and 6 for a total of 40 points. And in their last 10, they are 5-4-1. Look, the Blue Jackets are a mess. Top to bottom, they're a mess. I don't expect them to make any kind of run. Number 25, the Nashville Predators at 13, 20, and 7. 33 points overall in their last 10. They are also 5-4-1. Look, Stamkos and Marchessault were never. Was it Marchessault? Yes. They were never going to be held out as much as they have been in terms of scoring. They were always going to be able to find some goals. I think it was optimistic for us to expect both of them to be 40 goal scorers. Simply because Marchessault played on a line with Mark Stone, and Stamkos played on a line with Nikita Kucherov, which allowed them both to be open more often, which I think that's the problem. But they are starting to put it together. It's their last 10 shows. If they can start figuring more things out, maybe. But they started in such a hole that it would be a real long shot. Number 26, the Buffalo Sabres. A couple weeks ago, they would have been number 32. They are currently 15, 21, and 5 with a total of 35 points. In their last 10, they are 4, 5, and 1. They're still not figuring it out. I don't know what's wrong in Buffalo, but everything is wrong in Buffalo. This is supposed to be the year they took a step forward, and they've done nothing but go backwards. It's bad. Number 27, the New York Islanders. 15, 18, and 7. 37 points. Last 10, 4, 6, and 0. New York can't figure out how to put the puck in the net. They are not a very good... The Islanders are not a very good hockey team right now. And they are desperately looking for answers, and I don't know if they're going to find any. Number 28, the Philadelphia Flyers. 17, 18, and 5 for a total of 39 points. In their last 10, they are 3, 6, and 1. Look, I get it. The Flyers were doing okay. Matvei Michkov was looking like a beast. They were playing good hockey. And then their goaltender went down. And obviously they don't have a replacement for him in the building. Number 29, the New York Rangers. Funny, both the New York teams suck. Sounds like football. They are 18, 20, and 1 for a total of 37 points. In their last 10, they are 3, 7, and 0. A lot of people are just upset and angry at their GM currently. They don't have any trust in him. The Rangers are trying to figure out their problems. I think there's some trades to be had. I think they're probably going to go into a bit of a fire sale and get rid of some of their older talent and go into a rebuild mode. I don't 100% know that, but they went from President's Trophy last year to one of the worst teams in hockey this year. And nobody can figure out exactly why that happened. At number 30, we have the Seattle Kraken, who are 17, 21, and 3 with a total of 37 points. And in their last 10, they are 2, 7, and 1. The Kraken have had spurts where they've been decent, but they can never seem to string together enough wins to get anywhere close to being good. They had that magical run in their second season where they made the playoffs. It doesn't look like that's going to happen this year again, because the following year they didn't do very well. This year they're not doing very well. I don't know where the issues are coming, but they're going to have to figure it out. Number 31, the San Jose Sharks. 13, 23, and 6, 32 points. In their last 10, they are 2, 7, and 1. San Jose was playing for a little bit, some fun, good hockey. And then they started playing hockey that was terrible to watch. Absolutely dog crap hockey. They're starting again to figure out how to play fun hockey. So we'll see if this keeps up. They're a really young team. I don't expect them to be stellar. I think they're just going to continue to be okay. Or even bottom of the barrel for right now. But I think that over the next coming years that we'll see them start to prop their way back up. And number 32, the worst team in hockey, the Chicago Blackhawks. There is no question. They are 13-25-2 for a total of 28 points. In their last 10, they are 4-6. Bedard has had a sophomore slump. They can't stop the puck from going into the net. They can't put the puck in the net. They're just a bad hockey team. They're a bad hockey team. They're probably going to wind up in the lottery with the best chances at the number 1 overall pick again. I don't know who they're going to take, but they look like they're going to be the number 1 overall pick again. I don't know what Chicago does at this point, but whatever they're going to do, they are trash right now. And I don't know that they're going to get much better anytime in the near future. So that is the D-powered rankings. And so I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Alrighty. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on this episode. We'll be back again next week. I will probably actually go back to regular power rankings. So for the hockey. And we will talk about as many of the games as we feel are pertinent to talk about.
Just as a side extra here at the end.
Go ahead.
So the Bears have been reaching out to ask people for interviewing jobs.
Yep.
One of them that they reached out to was Mike McCarthy at the Cowboys.
Yes.
Interesting choice.
They actually asked for permission from Jerry to interview him.
The Cowboys denied the Bears' request to interview Mike McCarthy for the head coaching job.
Probably means they're going to extend him.
I was going to say that's exactly what that means.
They have, I believe his contract runs out tomorrow. And then they have the first, I want to say they have 14 days like they have the priority negotiation.
The priority, yeah. But it sounds like they're going to get a deal done.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to get a deal done.
Which that's why I laughed, because again, Jerry waiting until the very last minute to get a deal done. How fucking shocking.
And keeping Mike McCarthy. How shocking.
How shocking.
I feel bad for Cowboys fans because as long as Jerry's around, nothing is going to change.
I don't even feel bad anymore. Like, at this point, you guys are not... You haven't been America's team in forever, but you're certainly the butt of all jokes at this point. Just because
I think the funniest
how far you've fallen and you continue to fall. A lot of people are like, there's no way it can get worse. And then it just continues to get worse.
Well, it's insanity. You keep doing the same things and expecting a different result.
No, they're doing different things. It's just getting worse. They loop themselves, and then they make a decision to get out of the loop. That makes it worse. And then they loop themselves again. And they make another bad decision. And then they loop themselves again.
You know what? This is the Simpsons meme. No. Dig up, stupid.
Yeah, like pretty much. They like to dig down, then dig across, then dig down some more, then dig across again.
And say, well, we're doing different things.
I mean, they are actively doing different things. They aren't incorrect, at least.
Anyway, we hope everybody's having a good new year so far. We believe that whatever you put your minds to, we believe you can accomplish. We'll see you back here next week. We'll talk about pertinent wildcard games that were interesting. If anybody gets blown out, you might not hear about that game because it might not be worth talking about. In the meantime, we hope that everybody has a great one out there. We'll say to you, stay bearded.